Yeah, I'm glad to be part of this session. I'm happy for the invitation that you sent me. Yeah, we have now launched NX2, and I think that by itself is sufficient reason to have a good introduction to it, because it's in some ways it's completely the same as NX, but there's also quite some differences. So I want to take my time to explain the differences and to allow you for asking any questions that you may have. You probably will have. Nevertheless, for making most of the time, I think it's good that that you ask the questions at the time that the topic comes up. So all the questions that you have, don't rush in and ask them all at once, because I'm sure many of your questions will be answered as part of the presentation. And if not, we can always find some time in the end to answer them anyways, or by email, whatever is necessary for the time being.
Can I just ask you, are you happy
already?
If we record this?
Of course. I saw the notification. I don't mind at all. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
So as agenda, I want to first introduce myself, of course, explain about SpectraMagic NX2. There are some features to explain which are different from NX, but also the licenses are very different than what you're used to from NX. So those two topics I want to address with the highest focus. And after that, after the boring presentation, I will give you a guided tour around the NX2 with on my own PC. You can download it already by yourself, have a free license for 30 days, or you can ask Chris for a full-time license. And I have an instrument at my side, so we can do some real measurements if you want. So I am technology manager for our CNA portfolio, meaning I deal with introducing the products to our sales staff, but also listening from our sales staff what's wrong with our current products, so I can relay that information to R&D to tell them we have to make sure that this feature will get into the newest generation, otherwise we will miss out on market requirements. So it's a two-way information relay, basically, between R&D and the sales in the EMEA region. Yeah, so this is, you know NX, it's a color quality management software on communicating colors. It was quite old. It also looked very old, and there was plenty of reason to update it. And I want to introduce you the different differences between NX and NX2, and also maybe take away some fears that you may have or that you could expect your customers would have. This is how it looks like. So this is not looking like it's from the 90s as NX looks like. This is a bit more modern looking, a bit fresh, big icons. Yeah, this is what you expect basically of software that's released today. All the differences, all the details I will address during this presentation, of course. First of all, I think it's good to start with why do we have NX2? The reason is mostly that NX2 is now based on a new software platform, which allows us to develop new features. The old NX was based on an old software platform, and the new talent which was joining the company had no idea about the programming language that was used. They were not trained in that because it was so old. So that's why it took quite a while to implement new features, to support new instruments. Yeah, maybe you have seen the last 4 or 5 years, improvements have been quite limited. And it's really because of this reason. It took a long time for the new staff to get to work with NX2, with NX, with the old NX, and to be able to implement anything new. With NX2, it's built on a newest platform where people are confident in using it, where there's a lot of support around the internet about bug fixes, etc. So now we have something where we can implement new features. While building from scratch, it was also decided, and I think it's a good idea, to make a more intuitive user interface. So the NX, it was not that complicated, but we noticed that if you have people who have no background in color and color measurement, still it takes a little bit of training. You have to explain where all the functions are, what does what. With NX2, it's much more intuitive. So the functions are basically where you expect them to be. Of course, for a quick start, it's good to have some one-on-one training, but it's not really necessary. If there's a new employee coming in a company, he should be able to be trained by the people who have already a little bit of experience and not too much involvement of Konica Minolta or from you guys. And we have now one quality control software for all our CNA devices, which means also the CMM6 is now supported in NX2. We used to have DX just for the CMM6. That's no longer necessary. So our CNA products, CM, CR, they can all be connected to NX2.
It's going to be of interest to me.
There are three main selling points. So when a customer asks you, oh, I heard about NX2, what can we expect? Should we switch or not? I think there are three reasons which may persuade the customer to switch to NX2. First of all, improved operability and visibility. So it's more in your face what's going on. You have now a new evaluation window, which you see on the right here, showing you directly if your last measurement was a pass or fail, or if it's close to a fail, then you have a warning. Basically, that's all the operator wants to know. He does a measurement, he wants to know it's right or it's wrong. And if it's wrong, he will check, oh, maybe he did something wrong with the measurement or the sample is wrong, but that's his main trigger point. All the rest is nice, the graphs, the tables, etc. But the main information that he wants to know after the measurement is it a pass or is it a fail? So that's now implemented in a special evaluation window. Secondly, with NX2, you will find that you have a more efficient customer workflow. Most of all, it has big performance improvements. You can now work with large data sets, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, no problem. While with NX, maybe you have noticed this often lags the software. You have to wait a few seconds before the graph is updated when you switch between different sample measurements. NX2 is much more capable to deal with those larger data sets. We also have implemented a user-defined information. I will explain that later, what it means.
Can I just... Can I just ask a question? If you have customers that have been using targets from NX Pro, will they behave in the same way in NX2?
Yes. Your data set can be opened in NX2, so you don't even have to convert anything. If you have a measurement file saved in NX, you can open it in NX2. If you have a template made in NX, you can open it in NX2. So there is compatibility. There are some exceptions. If you have a specific graph in NX, the 3D graph, maybe you can visualize the LAB space in 3D. Right now, that's not possible in NX2. So if you have it in the template, also that will not be opened in NX2.
Then you could just delete that, but you can edit and delete that, so you haven't got this strange arbitrary image. That's
exactly. And I don't think many customers have this in their templates. It's quite useful for training to explain how the color space looks like, where the tolerances are. But for real-world applications, I don't think there are many. But if there are, we have to be aware. It's not possible to open it right now in NX2. Hopefully in the future it will come back again, but not right now.
Okay, yeah, that's not serious.
And if you have ever a problem where a file from NX cannot be opened in NX2, please report it because it's considered as a high priority bug.
Okay.
Our developers, they want to make sure everything that works in NX also works in NX2. So if not, we will have to put our efforts into solving this issue. The last of the selling points is there's a easier quality control rollout, especially for our bigger customers. It could be a useful way, a nice way to introduce NX2 to them. In NX, you have the templates, which are basically the graphs and the list items that you have selected, but no data. You can also send, of course, your full measurement file, which has all the data included as well. But now with NX2, you have a way to share your template with target data. So no sample measurement, but with the target data, including all the tolerances, including all the user indexes, including user illuminance. So if you are a quality manager, you can prepare this template and send it around to all your plants, and they all have the same starting point. So you do not have to explain them, oh, you have to set this target, and you do not have to verify anything. You just send the template with the target data, and they can start to measure immediately.
Okay, so you can include.
So just to be sure, it will work on Windows 11, it will work on Windows 10.
Yeah.
Does it go any earlier than that, or is it 10, 11?
No, 10 and 11 are guaranteed. It may work on older support operation systems, but there's no guarantees and there's no support officially granted for older systems. It's guaranteed to work for 10 and 11. Right, NX is still available. We can still sell it for at least until September. And it will be supported until 2028. So if there's still someone finds a bug in NX, our developers will solve it until 2028. But there will be no more new features in NX. No new instrument support, so all new instruments which will appear in the market in the next few years, they will not be supported by NX. Customers will have to switch to NX2 if they want to connect it to a PC.
Okay.
And yes, DX is discontinued. So there's no need for DX anymore. The whole purpose was only to allow for access to the CM6 data. Now that it's connected to NX2, there's no need for DX.
I think I have to ask customers who have DX, is there any incentive to get them, because they would have bought that at full price?
Yeah, if you have a customer with a DX, yes, there is a special discount. I do not have the numbers. Also, I do not know of any other customers who want to switch right now. But if they are really complaining about DX, we can offer a discount to switch them to NX2. Only from DX to NX2.
If they're not complaining, there's something strange about them.
Then they're not using it, and then keep them.
Point is, we have Toyota in South Africa, and they're using the CMM6s and the DX, and I'm sure that they'd love to do something else.
Yeah, it depends on the company. Sometimes, especially with big companies, they are hesitant to any change. So maybe it's more costly to switch them to a new software than to stick to the old one, which they don't really like. But let's deal with case by case.
In this case, we always ask somebody in Konica Minolta Japan to talk to Toyota Japan and find out what they've actually set as the course. And then it trickles down to our side.
Next slides are a bit more about those main selling points that I discussed earlier. The 3 different selling points go in a little bit more detail. Maybe this one doesn't need that much further detail because I already mentioned. You have the evaluation window, which gives you direct feedback. Your last measurement was a pass, it was a fail. You also get to see why it was a pass, what color indices have the tolerances which are checked on. And in your data list window, it has been cleared up a little bit. You now see a nice icon in front of targets and samples, which is the same as the icon that you see on the instrument. So there's less confusion between for the customer to find out, oh, this is my target or this is the sample. If he has an arbitrary naming, sometimes it could be a bit difficult to quickly see what's my target, what's my sample. Now you have an icon and you see it directly. Small changes, but they could be valuable for the operator.
Can you print that report?
So the data list window by itself cannot directly be printed, but you can implement it in your canvas window, and there you can print everything. So if you implement the data list in your canvas window, you can print it on paper on any size or as PDF.
Window? Canvas.
I will show you it in the demo later on.
I haven't used Canvas.
The user-defined information. In my introduction, I skipped it a little bit. Now I want to spend a bit more words on it. You know, maybe data tags. So that's a word or a section of a collection of words which can be connected to a measurement, and then you can group your sample data. Now you can have data tags with a value. So you basically have complete freedom to define your own variable. In this example, I created a user-defined information called item code, and it's called measurement position. They do not exist standard, but you can create them, and you can add a value to them. And later on, you can then use these values to sort on them or to filter on them. So in this example, I have a measurement position center. And if I then have a big set of measurements, I can filter out, oh, all these measurements are done at the center position. Or I only want to see the measurements done on the left position. Those kind of filtering and searching is now possible by having these user-defined information. But you have full freedom. You can make operator ID, for example, or room number, or whatever you think. You can have this implemented as your own customized user-defined information. It can be text, it can be value.
So for instance, if you're making inks for graphics, you can have different batches.
Yeah.
To maintain why there's not perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to use a comment field to type it all, and then because then it's just lost basically. It's still you can find it in the measurement data, but you cannot search for it. You cannot filter on it. Now you have an item which can be used to clear up all the big data sets and to quickly find what you need.
Cool. And now we'll handle it.
There are 3 different options for this user-defined information. One is a list. In this case, I made the item measurement position with a list of predefined values. So when you do a measurement, you select from these predefined values. You can add as many as you want. You can have top right or bottom left, whatever you please. Only top and bottom. It's really up to you. The other option is a string where you just type whatever you want. Full freedom. Still, you can have a default value, which you can adjust. In this case, you can change the axis if you want, but you can also delete the full string and type something else. So it's just text. And the last one is numeric, where it's a value. And with the values, you can sort, of course, from small to large. With the string, you can sort from A to Z, like you would expect from also Excel, for example. And when you now do a measurement, you see these new user-defined items in your measurement screen, and you can select and change these numbers or the predefined values, and then you press OK to finalize your measurement. Is this clear?
Yeah.
When it comes to efficiency, especially in combination with these user-defined items that I just explained, now with the NX2, you have more options for searching. You can combine different search conditions. For example, I only want to see measurements with the L star higher than 30 and measured in the last week. You can combine that search condition into one search. Or anything with a wideness index of between 3 and 3.5, and a B star less than 5, and measured by this operator. and measure with a CM5. I don't know what you want, but all those things can be combined into one search condition. Again, this will help you to work with larger data sets. You do not have to separate them across different measurement files. You can have all your measurements in one file and always easily retrieve whatever is relevant for your case. All these search conditions are also saved in your measurement file. So you do not have to set them up again. If you open the file again, you can save it and share it with other people, and they will always be there for you. Yeah, this is what it looked like. So in this case, I set a search condition on a sample with L star between 10 and 30, and also a delta A to the target less than 5. But you can add more. I'm sure there is some limit, but I have not experienced it so far. And what I said, yes, these conditions are all saved in your measurement file. And also in the QC template that I explained before, where you have the graphs, the data list items, and also the target data. For improved processing speed, there has been done an investigation by the developers to find out how much faster is NX2 compared to NX and DX. They did a test with 1,000 data entries, but not just 1,000 entries. These were 1,000 entries of a CMM6 in the double angle. So that's basically 12,000 sample measurements in one file. If you would have done this in NX and you change a measurement selection, you have to wait for about 7 seconds before the graph is updated. And that's quite a long time. In NX2, they reported a time of a delay of 2 seconds. But in my files, I have not experienced this so far. I have a set now of about 4,000 measurements included, and I have immediate response to switching the spectral graph. So yeah, that's really a big difference with NX, and it makes it much more usable. When it comes to application startup time, with DX, yeah, that was really silly. So you start this program, you make a nice cup of coffee, you answer to your first emails, and then you are ready to do your first measurement. That was not professional. NX2, it's the same as NX. It's not fastest in its class by all means. A few seconds you have to wait before everything is run, and you can get started. But it's not 38 seconds. No, fortunately not. Yeah, last graph shows how long it takes to open 1,000 entries. In the legend it says first start and second start. That's not really the case, what I understood. What they did is to open a measurement file from scratch. When NX2 was closed, you just open the measurement file from your desktop. So it has to open NX2 and also load the file. That took 10 seconds. But if NX2 is already open and you load a file, it takes 2 seconds to load this big data set. Big improvement over NX again, and an incredible improvement over DX.
Yeah.
The last of the selling points was this easier quality control rollout, which is now possible with the quality control template. And that's a template including the target data, and with all the targets you have the tolerances. Of course, you still have the graphs. You can also save your templates in the old way without target data. But you now also have the opportunity to save a template with the target data, which is then called a quality control template. And we believe this will simplify communication between brand owners and suppliers. So the brand owner can set up a file with the targets and the tolerances, set it out to his suppliers, and they simply measure and see automatically, yes, my measurement is in target, or is in tolerance or not. So there's no discussion. You do not have to verify anything if the measurement file was set up correctly, because it's all predefined by the brand owner. And all the operator has to do is calibrate and get started. He doesn't have to even know about how to set tolerances or how to which target is what. Everything is already included in the file. And especially if you then combine your targets with image information, because you can also embed an image with a target, then it's really obvious. In this target, you have to measure it at this location for this specific part. The operator sees the image, he knows what to do, measures, and he knows it's a fail or pass. It's as simple as that, and that's how simple it should be, of course. But we know with our old version software, but also with competitor solutions, it is often not that simple. So we think we make now a new step where we can a little bit push away our competitors and make it more easy for customers to work with NX2 than with other solutions. Again, this is very much focused on the bigger customers. A small production environment will not benefit that much because they only have 1 or 2 licenses. So there's no big need to send around those templates. But if you have a bigger organization, yeah, that really makes a difference.
And the whole suite. Yes.
Schematically, this is what it looks like. So the brand owners, QC managers, they develop the template. They assure everything is set correctly, and then distribute it to the different quality control workers, which may be on-site or off-site. But they all have the same starting point. They all get the same file to add that data to it. And then that data can be sent back to the QC managers to verify. So all the worker has to do is load the template, calibrate the instrument, and measure.
This is obviously assuming that everybody is using an absolutely identical instrument. The template would have the instrument settings on it, but where we have compatible instruments,
it's up to you can make the instrument and the instrument setting optional or required in the template. So you can set a target where you say, oh, it must be measured with a CM 26DG with this aperture. Otherwise, you will get it will not be allowed. Or you set it as optional, where you get a warning. Oh, please be aware, we originally made this target with a different setting, but you can continue if you want. If you know what you're doing, go ahead. So the last part is no more detailed instructions and no more validation of this of your software setup, because it's already been predefined. That's a real advantage. Some things which are not part of the main selling points, but still could be interesting to certain customers. Right now we have a way to show the indices under different observer illuminant conditions side by side. In NX, you can set a primary, secondary, even tertiary illuminant observer combination. In NX2, there's no limitation. You can define as many as you want, and you can show them side by side. So now, in this case, I have an L star under different observer illuminant conditions. So you can see in your data list the impact that the observer illuminant make on your measurement result. You can also see we have a new illuminant also standard included in NX2, the LED illuminants. They have been standardized 3-4 years ago. Because of now the whole world is going towards LED illuminations. The fluorescent tube lighting is being prohibited slowly. In Europe already for sales and office, for office and stores, it's no longer allowed to have fluorescent tube lighting. So also the standard illuminant for fluorescent tube lighting is becoming less relevant, and we now have standard illuminants for LED lighting. They're crappy store lighting with a CL500A.
Yes.
And directly import that in NX2. So you don't need any other software. If you have a CL500A, you can go to the customer, measure it, or the customer can purchase a CL500A, also welcome. But if not, you can do it for him and measure, and you have that as new illuminant in NX2. So you can have up to 100 user illuminants in NX2 and show to the customer this is what the color will look like on the different illuminants, also with your own illuminant.
Yeah, we have the same in the food, in the meat business. So in the retail, you're not allowed to put nice red lights to make it, looking wonderful. So you really want to know what it's going to look like in the retail place.
Yeah.
And that's actually almost right down to the breeding of the animal to get that right. We're working with a company at the moment that are interested in standardizing the color they put out.
Yeah, and also now in car interior, they use different kind of LED illuminations with different mixing of red, green, blue. In the planes, there is custom illuminants. So Boeing wants to have to test their seats on the different illuminants that they can program in their cockpit. All those things can now be visualized in NX2 and also quantified.
It's useful.
Maybe for 95% of your customers it's overkill, but for those 5%, it could be good to know that this is now an option.
Yeah.
If I then compare NX to NX2 side by side, we have a few new things. New instrument support, so CM-M6 and also the new CF300, they cannot be operated in NX. They can now be operated in NX2. In NX2, it's possible to include the viewfinder image. If you have a CM36DG, it includes a viewfinder camera, and also the CF300 has a viewfinder camera. And you can make a snapshot picture of your measurement and include it in your measurement data. So you always see what you have been measuring. The LED illuminants I just mentioned, user illuminants I mentioned, data tags, a little bit improved, but not too much. You can now change your target to absolute data directly. In NX, you had to do a little bit of workaround to make a copy of it, and it was not that user friendly. Now you can directly change any target to absolute data, and of course any absolute data to target if you want. No problem. You can add a sample to multiple targets if you want. All those things are now working as they should be. QC template, I explained to you, this is the new template with the target data. And user equation configuration, it looks a bit more fancy with nice buttons instead of the programming language that you basically had to do with the old NX. Those are the main features. It's not complete. I have a longer list. I will include it in the presentation, but then I'll share it to you afterwards. Then you have a full list of all the things that have changed. Of course, there was also some things which were possible in NX and not possible anymore in NX2. So good to be aware of. Instrument support has been a bit reduced. Most of these, by the way, have already been removed from the latest version of NX. Version 3.4 already had no more support for the 512 M3, for example. But now the FD7 and FD5, they cannot be operated with NX2. Then you still have to stay to NX if you want to use this. The 3D absolute value graph I mentioned to you before, that was possible in NX, not in NX2 right now, but we hope it will be implemented in a future version. NX files, you can open them, but you cannot save your files as an old NX file. If you work in NX2, any file that you save cannot be opened in NX, but any NX file can be opened in NX2. There was a feature which nobody knew and nobody used to send your data directly by email from NX. That's not possible anymore. I don't know why. I didn't even know it was there until I saw this mentioned. But there was some kind of trigger that could send an email out after a pass or a fail, I believe. That's not possible in NX2. If you have a customer who used that, let me know. I'd be interested. But you will not be able to do this in NX2.
You would just attach the file as you would any other file.
Of course, and that's still possible. Of course, that's still possible.
Yeah, that can still be done. Yeah.
Of course.
Good.
And toolbar customization in NX, you had plenty of freedom to do this really up to your taste. You can still do quite a lot of customization, but it has been a little bit simplified. Overall, I don't think you will find any limitations that are really of any concern. All right. Then next part is licensing. If you have no further questions about all the features, looking at the time, we now spend 1 hour.